You opened this video for a reason. Maybe the title made you slightly uncomfortable. A quiet suspicion that you're not as immune to influence as you'd like to believe. If so, good. That discomfort is useful. Hold on to it. Because today we're going to talk about 8 things that are actively working against your judgment. At work, in relationships, and everywhere in between. No theory, no lectures, just what the research actually shows and what you can do about it starting today. Lesson 1. The smarter you are, the easier you are to manipulate. This one stings a little, but stay with me. There's a concept in psychology called motivated reasoning. It means our brain don't just think, it argues. And the more intelligent you are, the more sophisticated your internal lawyer becomes. An average thinker hears a bad idea and thinks, that feels off. They move on. A sharp thinker hears the same bad idea and starts building a case. They find the 3 reasons it could work. They identify the angle no one else sees. They convince themselves they're being nuanced. Meanwhile, the person who pitched the idea is watching all of this happen and smiling. Psychologist David Perkins at Harvard found that intelligence strongly predicts the ability to generate reasons supporting a position, but does not predict the ability to consider the other side. Smarter people just construct better logic. The conclusion was already emotional. So when you catch yourself building an unusually compelling case for something, pause. Ask, am I thinking this through, or am I arguing myself into something I already want to believe? The sophistication of your reasoning is not proof it's right. It might be proof of the opposite. Lesson 2. Emotional speed is your biggest vulnerability. Late afternoon, long day. Someone in a meeting says one sentence, and before you've formed a single thought, you're already defensive, or you've already agreed, or you've quietly dismissed them. That wasn't your judgment. That was your alarm system, firing before your analysis even started. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio showed that emotions aren't the enemy of good decisions. They're woven into every decision we make. The amygdala, our threat detector, fires within 200 milliseconds, long before the prefrontal cortex can analyze anything. Under strong emotional activation, critical thinking is temporarily offline. You are running on autopilot. So build one rule. When you feel a fast, strong emotional reaction, treat it as a signal, not a command. Breathe. Count to 5. You're not being slow. You're buying time for your better brain to arrive. That 5-second gap is worth more than most hour-long strategy sessions. Lesson 3. Always ask who designed the question. The most powerful influence tool isn't an answer. It's a question. And specifically, how that question is framed. Should we invest more in this initiative? That hits your brain completely differently than, can we afford this risk right now? Identical facts. Completely different gut response. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus spent decades proving that question wording changes not just opinions, but actual memory. People remembered car crashes as more severe when asked about a collision versus a contact. Framing doesn't just shape what we think, it shapes what we recall as fact. Before any high-stakes conversation, ask yourself, who framed this problem, and why exactly this way? 10 seconds to examine the frame before stepping into it gives you a structural advantage that most people never even think to use. Lesson 4. Your need to belong is your most expensive habit. Here's something ambitious people rarely admit to themselves. Some of their decisions weren't made to get the best outcome. They were made to belong. The project you greenlit because you didn't want to be the friction. The opinion you swallowed because the room had already moved on. The task you took on because not a team player felt too dangerous a label. It doesn't feel like pressure when it's happening. It feels like reading the room, like being professional, like being a grown-up. Solomon Ash's conformity experiments showed that 75% of participants gave obviously wrong answers, just to match the group. The brain's social pain from rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. Being excluded doesn't just feel uncomfortable. To your nervous system, it registers as a survival threat. Before agreeing to anything significant, ask yourself quietly, am I doing this because it's right? Or because I'm afraid of what happens if I don't? One question. You'll be surprised how often the honest answer changes what you do next. Lesson 5. Urgency is almost always manufactured. We need an answer by end of day. This window closes tonight. Everyone else has already moved forward. Artificial urgency is one of the oldest plays in the book. It works in sales, in politics, in management, anywhere someone needs you to decide before you've had space to think. Behavioral research shows that decisions made under time pressure lean far more heavily on fast, emotional, heuristic-driven thinking. Perceived urgency reduces critical evaluation and dramatically increases compliance, even when people consciously know it's a tactic being used on them. So make this your rule. The harder someone pushes for an immediate answer, the more time you actually need. "I'll get back to you tomorrow" is not uncooperative. It's the most rational sentence you can say. Anyone who genuinely can't wait 24 hours for a thoughtful answer doesn't deserve a fast one. Lesson 6. The hidden assumption is more dangerous than the open argument. A direct lie is easy to catch. But what about the assumption that arrives pre-installed inside a perfectly reasonable-sounding question? When are you finally going to wrap this up? That sentence assumes you're late, that you failed. That explanation is owed. The moment you answer the question, you've already accepted the premise. You never even noticed the hand that placed it there. Linguist George Lakoff showed that language carries built-in frames, conceptual structures we adopt automatically when we engage with certain words. When someone imposes their frame through a question, your brain begins operating on their conceptual territory, even when you believe you're pushing back. Arguing within someone else's frame is still losing, so learn to answer before you answer. In practice, before I respond, I want to name an assumption here that I don't think is accurate. This single move resets the frame before the discussion even begins. It's one of the most powerful tools in any negotiation, performance conversation, or difficult meeting. Lesson 7. The consistency trap. You committed to the project. You said it publicly. You started building. Now there are signals it's not working, but admitting it feels almost physically impossible. Not because the evidence isn't clear, but because reversing course means contradicting your past self. And the brain treats that as a kind of threat. Robert Cialdini documented this deeply. People don't just defend their views, they defend their previous self. Leon Festinger's cognitive dissonance research showed that the mental discomfort of contradiction is painful enough that we will distort reality to avoid it. The initial commitment doesn't just shape a decision, it becomes an identity anchor. So ask yourself this: if I were starting today, with no prior decision on the table, what would I actually choose? This breaks the consistency chain. It separates the decision from the person who made it, and it's the fastest way to see a situation clearly again. Lesson 8. The deepest manipulation changes who you think you are. You're smart. You don't actually believe that, do you? I know you have higher standards than this. Your team has always been the one that figures things out. Notice what these sentences are doing. They're not making an argument. They're making an offer. A version of you that you'd like to be. And then quietly attaching a condition. The deepest manipulation doesn't change what you think. It changes how you define yourself. And then lets you do all the rest of the work yourself. Social psychologist Henri Tajfel showed that people defend their identity more fiercely than their individual beliefs. When someone appeals to who you are, as a professional, a parent, a person with standards, it bypasses rational evaluation entirely. You stop assessing the argument. You start protecting the self-image. So when you notice an argument is appealing to who you are rather than what you should do, stop. Ask, is this actually true, independent of who I am or want to be? Your identity is not an argument. It should never be used as one, by others or by yourself. The payoff. 8 lessons. But underneath all of them, one shift. Manipulation only works when your response is automatic. The moment you pause, even for a single breath, you change what's possible. The question that does it, who benefits if I believe this? Not because everyone is out to get you. Most influence isn't malicious. It's structural, habitual, baked into how conversations are designed by default. But asking that question turns you from a passenger into a driver. The most resilient people aren't the ones who never feel pressure. They're the ones who feel it clearly and choose deliberately anyway. That's the whole game.